Good evening. Thanks for joining us on CNBC TV 18. I'm Shireen Ban. Rural distress seems to have played a huge role in the assembly elections in key states of Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. In fact, in rural Rajasthan, the BJP lost 79 seats. The biggest problem of outgoing CM Vasundhara Raje faced in this election was the vicious debt trap that farmers of the state find themselves caught in. It's the same story that's playing out in Madhya Pradesh as well. The BJP's tally in rural Madhya Pradesh was down 43 seats. Remember, India's agrarian economy is plagued by falling output prices, declining incomes and increased variation in agricultural production. According to the National Sample Survey report that mapped income, expenditure and indebtedness of agricultural households in India in 2013, the income of almost 70% of farm households is less than their consumption expenditure. The interministerial panel headed by Ashok Dalwai to help find ways to boost farm incomes by 2022 noted, and I quote, the strategy for doubling farmers' income encompasses a higher productivity at cost efficiency and enabling the farmer to capture maximum value. The question though is, how do you arrive at that? How do you find the road to be able to get to that? While the launch of an electronic national agriculture market or ENAM, the Model Contract Farming Act and a hike in minimum support prices have been steps in the right direction, recent farmer unrest proves that we still have a long road to fixing the issues faced by India's farming community. And with the general elections around the corner, the challenge for the government is not just to ensure that the rural economy is back on track, but also that the unrest caused by the distress does not spill over to other sectors of the economy. Joining us now on this show, Ashok Dalwai, the chairman of the Dalwai Committee, which is an interministerial panel formed by the centre to look at ways to double farmers' income by 2022. Also with us on the program, Yogendra Yadav, the president of Swaraj India, Jatin Singh, founder of SkyMet Weather, Amit Vatsayan of EY. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the program. Mr. Dalwai, before I talk to you about the over 300 recommendations that your report has suggested, sir, let me ask you a categorical question. Post the electoral setback for the BJP, a lot of speculation building up that perhaps we could see a national loan waiver being announced for farmers. Is there any consideration of that, sir?
At least I'm not aware of such a proposal. And as all of us know, Government of India has always been very clear that there shall be no waiver from the central government. And it's a matter of state subject, and if the states are interested, they can go ahead with that. And the matter stands where it is. And government is extremely clear about its policies. It is wanting to put on a sustainable basis the growth of agriculture sector with farmer as the core. The difference is that so far we had been chasing commodities, but today we would like to improve the situation of the farmer in terms of welfare. And one of the important criteria of welfare is to enhance his income. And the entire policy package of Government of India over the last 4.5 years is to turn around the agriculture sector from production centricity to income centricity. Now, all the interventions being made are around this, and that shall continue to be sustained. Okay, so categorical assertion coming in from you that at this point in time, there is no proposal with your ministry to look at the possibility of a central loan waiver. Yes, that's what I would like to say. Okay, let me bring in Yogendra Yadav. Yogendra Yadav, you've read the report that Mr. Dalwai has put together. As I pointed out, more than 300 recommendations. The report, of course, was submitted in August of 2017. The focus on income, and that clearly has to be the road forward. But what do you believe are the current shortcomings that need to be addressed by way of intervention?
One word on the report, Shireen. I think it's an excellent report. I've had occasion to read it, a very good report, but I have a complaint. The complaint is that this government announces that within 6 years we are going to double the income. Having announced it, then it sets up a committee. And the committee obviously takes time, produces wonderful report, but the country's farmers need more than a wonderful report. The committee gave solid recommendations in August 2017, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. How many of those recommendations have been implemented? And when the committee gives final recommendation, I'm told about a month or so, it's still not in the public domain. As a citizen, I want to know what was recommended, what has been acted upon. Okay. Now to come back to the main question that you've asked. The one thing we need to remember is that loan waiver is not the first and foremost demand of farmers' movement. Yeah. Our first and foremost demand is exactly what Mr. Dalwai said, income, assured income, regular income, and some mechanism through which this income can be guaranteed. Currently, yes, this government has talked about income, has said that we would go beyond production to producer. Lovely words. That's exactly what I want to hear. But I also want something to be done for it. Nothing has been done for it. And that's why when structurally the farmer has been ignored, there is an anger. And that is when farmers are saying, at least do two things for us before you demit office. One, a legislation which is pending in the Lok Sabha on guaranteed minimum support price as a legal guarantee. And second, a one-time loan waiver. I know, just one quick thought, while this government says they will not do loan waiver, but in the past, central governments have done loan waivers, so there's nothing legal about it. And second, it so happens that this government is headed by a prime minister who goes around this country promising loan waivers in Uttar Pradesh, in Gujarat, no, not in Gujarat, in Karnataka. So, if that's such poor economics, why does the head of this government keep promising it in other parts of the country?
Well,
that's a question farmers want to know and answer.
Well, that is an answer that Mr. Dalwai cannot help us with, but he has categorically stated that at least from an agriculture ministry's point of view, no central loan waiver proposal is on his table or his ministry's table just yet. But on the larger point, Mr. Dalwai, that was being made before I bring Amit and Jatin into the conversation, that was being made by Yogendra Yadav. Of the 300-odd recommendations in your report runs across 2,000-odd pages, sir. What has been acted upon to ensure that we actually get to that business of doubling farm income by 2022? And is it really a realistic expectation any longer, sir? Let's be clear about that.
Yeah, I would first like to thank Professor Yogendra for his compliments, and I personally value his observations. And as regards the report and its implementation, I would like to clarify today that when this committee was set up in 2016 April, immediately after the budgetary announcement by the finance minister, the Minister of Agriculture was very clear, and he told me personally that as you sit down to write and submit your report, we would like you to also recommend parallelly several suggestions so that this government can start implementing them. And I'm happy to say that over the last 2 years, several recommendations that we made parallel to the working on a report have been accepted by the government. In fact, the budget 2017, budget 2018 contained a lot of recommendations which we had made. They've all been converted into policies and programs. In fact, the major emphasis has been on the post-production. For example, we wanted the market reforms. We did bring about a new marketing act and shared with the state governments. We did say that the MSP, which should be increased, and alongside the announcement of the MSPs, there should be also a broad-based procurement. And as you know, this year the scheme called PM Asha was announced by the budgetary announcement. And today we have a broad-based procurement. Unlike before, where paddy and wheat were the only core procured commodities, today we have all the cereals, we have the pulses and the oil seeds. And I think we see today that as high as 45 lakh tons of pulses and oil seeds were procured, which is an all-time high. So I would say there are several recommendations in the post-production, including, for example, setting up retail agriculture markets. Because the small and marginal farmers can't approach the APMCs. They needed a market closer to their farm gate. And likewise, on the production side, just to be brief, that we have now been working on improving the pulses, the oil seeds, and the millets. Because all the time we were focusing only on the irrigated areas. We wanted to bring focus on the rain-fed systems, which is a dominant system. And we are seeing that thanks to the policy promotion, all these three sectors have now started growing.
Some of those recommendations have been put into action. But Amit, let me ask you this. As Mr. Dalwai was pointing out, that there have been recommendations that have been made on MSP, which have now been taken forward by way of policy action and policy intervention. What has transpired on the ground, though, is a very different picture, both in terms of procurement as well as in terms of the promise of MSP, which is inconsistent and patchy in different parts of the country. Now, in your assessment, the kind of price collapse that we've seen as far as rural incomes are concerned, what would be the short-term ways or short-term interventions required to bridge that at this point in time?
So I think while there has been conversation about MSP and the rollout, I do welcome the policy initiatives that the government has taken, because MSP and supporting the farmers in the short to medium run is right now absolutely critical given the level of indebtedness we see. But in the long run, I think there is a need to look at a shift from a very staple crop-oriented economy where farmers are dependent on to high-value agriculture commodities. So, in my opinion, currently there are 3 types of MSP recommendation which the government has given, and I think various states are trying it out. I would say still we need to wait to see the results of all of those 3 coming out. But I think what remains to be done is a shift of moving to high-value agriculture, such as looking at vegetables and fruits, because in our calculation, it will give a boost of almost 1 lakh per hectare to the farmers, as against current 41,000 rupees per hectare they get from the staple crops.
Okay. Jatin, let me ask you now again, in terms of short-term interventions that you believe could address the current distress, forget the past distress, the current distress, which is a problem of plenty, not a problem of too little.
I think when you are giving MSPs, then there should be a quick way of actually spending money and buying stuff. Here the problem is that you have declared MSP, but the whole cycle of that purchase needs to be coordinated. I also feel that the crop insurance scheme that has been implemented, and it's a very tight scheme. I think it's thought out for a generation, the way it is being done. I think on the implementation side, see, the problem is that a farmer over the life cycle of a crop has multiple risks. Okay, this policy addresses that risk at different points. The key thing is that, and it's not that it's not happening, but it has to be made faster. That every time a risk Rubicon is crossed, the payment is made immediately. And so that's what. See, here there is amount of money that has always been set aside for taking care of a contingency. Okay, now the contingency needs to be fired at exactly the right time. And the third thing that the government is doing, but it's a hard thing to do, is to have an integrated database across farmers from all over the country. In India, it is so difficult to identify who the farmer is.
I now want to pick up on each of those points, Mr. Dalwal, and pick up on the crop insurance scheme, because there has been a lot of criticism that while this scheme was announced with a lot of fanfare, it hasn't found benefits really with the farming community. In fact, it hasn't found many takers now as far as this particular scheme is concerned. How do we address that challenge? Because this is going to be something that we're going to have to deal with not just for the next few months, but over the next few years, given the vagaries as far as weather patterns is concerned, and Jatin knows best about that.
Should give me a minute after him.
I will.
Yeah, I agree with you. In fact, the new scheme, the PMFBY, is a market-driven scheme, which means that we are trying to reach out to as many farmers as possible, and that's possible only with market intervention, because agriculture is the riskiest profession anywhere, and it is very difficult to hold on to the insurance companies. So now with larger volumes, we guess that the premium rates will go down, and we see over a period of time the premium rates will go down. But what is really required is that we have a technology where the crop cutting experiments are accurate, the results are transparent, and then the credibility among all the stakeholders is there. I guess with the introduction of new technology that we adopted in terms of both ICT platform as well as now the remote sensing technology that we are bringing in, I can foresee that over a period of time, all the stakeholders, the insurance companies, the farmers and the state government, so the principal stakeholders will see merit in this thing.
Before I go back to Jatin, and again, for the benefit of our viewers, this is a complex issue. It does not have a one-size-fits-all solution, and it does not have any quick fix solutions either. This needs a comprehensive approach. So I come back, sir, given the challenge that we're faced with today, and that seems to be reflected in the electoral results and the electoral verdict as well, that you have a situation where there is record production, and yet you have a situation where prices have collapsed. Now, what do you do in a situation like this?
Yeah, as they say, success is its own enemy. Today, India is surplus in several commodities. So we need to find markets for that. And in fact, our committee has said very clearly that a market is defined not just by the human mouths or the cattle feed. It has to go beyond that, which means that we need to integrate agriculture with agro-industries so that the agriculture, surplus agriculture produce starts finding value through processing. It is food processing, non-food processing. For example, the latest policy of the government, where now...
The agri-export policy, which has just been cleared by the cabinet.
Yeah, no, apart from that, when I was trying to say that we integrate agriculture as an industry, I meant the policy on the sugar cane. India, for example, last 10-year data shows that we don't need more than 26 million tons of sugar. But whereas we have been producing 32, 34 million tons, obviously the market is bound to suffer to the disadvantage of the farmer. So the government's revised policy now says that we can use heavy molasses as well as the sugarcane juice to produce ethanol. And further, ethanol has been also allowed for blending at higher percentage with the petroleum products. This way, we'll be able to now suck out the surplus from agriculture sector, find a new market. I guess that's the way forward.
Okay. No, the fair point that could be the way forward, larger focus towards ethanol blending, for instance, to address the kind of challenges that the sugar sector has faced with, which has also been debt-laden. Yogendra Yadav, like this one example, this practical example that we just talked about, ethanol blending, and you gave us several other recommendations. In the near to medium term, what are the interventions that should be prioritized?
Shireen, the question I keep asking myself, why is it that the farmers grow so much sugarcane? Are they in love with sugarcane? Do they want to eat more of it, take back home? Do they find it very easy to produce? No. The simple answer is this is the only crop in which, for various reasons, they are assured of a somewhat decent return. If this is promised in other crops, farmers would easily shift from sugarcane to others. We don't need to produce that much sugarcane. We are literally exporting water from our country to outside. We don't need to do that. The simple answer is we need to find ways of supplementing farmers' income. Mr. Dalwai has given very decent answers. The simple question remains, and I don't know if it's fair to ask him those questions. I really wanted to ask the agriculture minister of this country these questions. But the kind of agriculture minister this government has for the last 4.5 years is itself an indication of how non-serious this government is about agriculture. The simple questions are the following. You have a 6-year target for doubling of farmers' income. It's 2.5 years. Why doesn't the government publish data to say how much have we covered in the last 2.5 years? You have passed APMC Act. BJP says every day and night we have government in 20 states. It all needs a wink from the Prime Minister of this country, and by tomorrow the states, at least 18 states of this country, will pass the act. Why does that not happen? Why do we not have even the recommendations of the Dalwai Committee, final recommendations, which were submitted some 2-3 months ago? Why can't I, as a citizen, see those recommendations? On MSP, why doesn't the ministry simply issue statistics to say finally aggregated, not disaggregated? Simple one aggregated table. I'm sure they are interested in this, on what is the actual market price and how much is the actual market price below the MSP promised by the government. Then we begin to speak, then we are politically serious. I understand all these great structural reforms, but right now it's only 4 months to go. We need to see something big, something that can make a difference, something that shows a political will and political intent, which is missing. I'm not even sure if I should ask anyone on the panel about those questions.
Well, it would be unfair to put Mr. Dalwai in that spot, but I am nevertheless going to give you an opportunity to respond to what you just heard there from Yogendra Yadav. Mr. Dalwai.
Yeah, the first thing is that with due respects to Professor Yogendra, I would like to speak on behalf of my minister. I would like to emphasize here that he is highly committed to this transformation. It is in fact he who constituted his committee, and he has gone through our recommendations and he has accepted those things. What I would like to tell Professor Yogendra is that yes, why should the farmer grow only sugar cane? The farmer is a rational economic animal. He will grow where there's money. I think what now the new policies of the government are trying to do is to bring about intercrop comparison. Since we were highly centric around paddy and wheat, and today we would like to see diversification in alignment to the crop ecology or the agroecology, as they say. We should be ensuring that there is remunerative return on other crops. So therefore the rise in the MSP for the cereals, for including the millets, for example, the pulses and oil seeds, will now incentivize the farmer to move away from paddy and wheat to nutri-cereals and other crops. And then I think the technology that the scientists have given us, that the crop production or including the dairy and animal husbandry should all be promoted in alignment to the agroecology will happen. I think the pricing was the main thing. I guess we have now started focusing on post-production, which is not just price, not just market, but agri-logistics in terms of storage, in terms of transportation, as also processing. And the transformation that the Ministry of Food Processing is bringing about, including allowing for FDI investments, I think over a period of time, we will see positive transformations.
Well, you know, those are all directionally positive changes, and we're hoping that it will, in fact, realize on the ground. But to Yogendra Yadav's point, in the next few months, is there a big-ticket idea that we can expect to alleviate some of the pain that's very clearly being felt?
See, one of the major challenges, we have been speaking about it, is how do we find remunerative prices on the agriculture produce? Now, the market reforms that we've initiated, yes, they will take their own time. And we also know, not only in India, but globally, the agriculture markets can never be perfect, which means that there will be vicissitudes in the market. And therefore, one of the important things that the government has done is to broad-base the procurement and see that wherever the MSPs are notified, we have a strong procurement mechanism. So today, in terms of interventions, we have gone beyond the price support scheme and brought in price deficiency system. And we have told the state governments that they have the freedom to choose from any of the basket that we have offered them. And we are now slowly and steadily seeing that the number of commodities being procured is increasing, the quantum being procured is increasing, and it is going beyond the traditional states. We were always seeing 7 to 8 states doing it and other states not doing it. We have advised the state governments